Hello and welcome back to the Car Talk podcast, a show where we talk about the latest car news and the latest transportation opinion. I'm Bailey, your host, and joining me today, of course, is Matty from Matty's Cars. How you doing, Matty?
Yes, good as always, ready for our monthly podcast. This is our 10th podcast as well.
It is, that's literally what I was about to mention.
Yes.
Can you believe we're doing it for 10 months? It's almost becoming up to a year, which is crazy, but we do hope you've enjoyed the podcast so far. Now, we've got a theme this month, Matty, haven't we? We have the car news, of course, and then we've got a little discussion thing at the end where we're going to be talking about what classic cars we love and what we think future classic cars are going to be.
Yes, our favourite classic cars, from everything from an E-Type Jag to probably with me a Vauxhall Nova, and then our future classic predictions as well. So stuff that you can buy now for a couple of £100 even, that we think is going to be worth big money in years to come.
So basically, Matty, what we're doing is kind of giving a bit of advice to the listeners and the viewers, in a bit of sort of push towards them to buy a certain car that might be worth quite a lot of money in the future.
Yeah, it's basically saying buy this now before someone like fucking Chris Evans buys 10, puts them in his stupid white garage, and no one else can find them in the country. That's what it's about.
But we'll get onto that later. But first, as always, we'll start with the car news. Matty, do you want to start?
Well, let's do the one that has made both of our ears prick up this week, and it is the new it's the new Lamborghini Countach that is coming back. It is making a revival. That's it.
Yeah. It's big news this month, actually.
Big news.
Lots of discussion and various people talking about it. What are your thoughts on it, Matty? I don't really know, to be honest.
I do. I think the front looks just phenomenal. I think they've just got it absolutely right. I mean, it is giving me sort of, I don't know, actually, it is a little bit like Murcielago-ish, but just the square sort of lights and they've captured the essence of the 1970s. Did it come out very well?
Yeah, 70s, well, actually 80s, I'd say, early 80s. But yeah, like I know what you mean. It's definitely captured that like original shape at the front, which is spectacular. But at the back, Matty, I'm sure you can agree with this on me, is a bit of a mismatch there. It kind of looks like the Lamborghini Cyan with the lights.
Oh, is that how you pronounce it?
Something like that.
I was calling it the Lamborghini Shan last week.
I know it is. That is the Shan. Never mind.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. We were saying that the Countach is the best name, and they brought out the Shan. It's not too good, but basically Lamborghini must have listened to the podcast and said, "We'll get rid of the Shan." Don't know if they are, but they'll bring back the Countach.
Yes. And I can see what they're doing with the rear lights, though. I mean, I know the original one had those sort of square-looking ones, and they had 3 of them. They're doing the same thing, but it looks too much like a previous Lamborghini, which is my problem.
Is it going to be electric, or is it going to have a V12?
It's a naturally aspirated V12, apparently, but it has an electric motor.
Okay. You see, I don't mind that.
No, it's fine. Little bit of booster power. I think it's only like 34 brake horsepower or something.
Yeah.
So you get a total of about 800 horsepower. Hence the name 800-4. So it will be 4-wheel drive as well. I don't think the original was either.
The original was terrible, as proved by James May on Top Gear.
Yeah.
I mean, technically it was terrible, but
it wasn't very fast. But
no,
you buy it because it's a Lamborghini. It's
and
the same thing now.
It broke down more times than, was it Sienna Miller? I think it was.
Do you want to know how much it costs, Matty?
How much the new one costs?
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
Have a guess, roughly.
Guess, okay.
Think of a reasonable price that you would probably price it as, and I'll tell you the wrong answer.
Okay, so 350,000, is it?
No, it's 1.7 million before taxes.
Oh my God.
Which is more than the original.
Do you know what? I was about to say, who's going to buy that? But if I had that sort of money, I would.
Yes.
I would buy that. Definitely.
So that is the big news of this month.
That is the big news. You might as well just switch off now.
Basically, yes. But it's not yet, because I've got some interesting news about E10 fuel, Matty.
Scary stuff.
It is, yes, actually. And I know you mentioned last month that you tested it on your car, and your car was eligible, which is lucky for you.
Well, one of my cars is, yeah.
One of them, yes, not the Peugeot.
No.
However, I tested my Mazda, and of course it isn't. But I found a solution for this. So I read somewhere online, somewhere called Autocar. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. No, I haven't either. No. And I found out that there is 2 ways of getting around this if you have a classic car. You can either replace all the components to do with what the new petrol kind of dissolves and stuff.
Yeah, get it converted, yeah.
Yeah, like rubber parts, gasket, seals, etc.
Yeah.
Or you could use the higher octane fuel, because apparently they're keeping that E5 for another 5 years.
Are they?
Yes, that's because I read a quote and it says E5 will still be available in 5 years' time, but only as a protection grade in super. It will be reviewed in 5 years' time.
Brilliant. Well,
that's very interesting.
That's sorted. Yeah. I mean, I have read that if you say if you took your non-compliant car and put E10 in it, if you just done that once for the first time, it would have no difference at all. But
it's funny you should say this, Matty. Actually,
okay.
Say if you accidentally put E10 in your classic car,
yeah.
You don't have to worry about it, because if you put E5 in afterwards, it dilutes it, so it basically doesn't make a difference. So it won't actually damage it. So even if you put it in once, you still don't have to worry about actually think physically putting it in, because you just put some E5, mix it in, and it'd be fine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is people are saying, aren't they? Like, we could just erode all the rubber and stuff, and you'll just have to. But people are saying you just have to put E10 in your non-compliant car and keep an eye on the rubber seals. And I haven't paid a huge sum of £450 for a Peugeot 205 to put the wrong fuel in and then just keep an eye on me rubbers should they just break. I mean, I have trouble enough keeping the bloody radiator working. It's
a difficult one. I mean, I think the reason they've done this obviously is money, and because they don't like cars, the government.
It's literally to just get people with old cars off the road, and it's
basically.
It's not right. It's not right.
It's a shame, because they're the best cars, as we'll discuss later.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah. This all ties in perfectly with the podcast.
It's a very classic episode, this one. But it's about to get more modern, unfortunately, Matty, because I want to talk about the new Honda Nsx Type S.
Yes.
Now, this is the previous Honda Nsx, the one they recently released before the one back in the 90s and early 2000s. It's the same car, but it's had a facelift, so it's got a more of aggressive front lights and front bumper. And I think it looks fantastic. I want one quite badly, actually. It has a V6 hybrid. And it's basically the same engine as before, but it's been boosted to 600 horsepower, which in that little thing is absurd. But I think it looks great. It's in a nice matte grey colour in some of the images.
So this is the Swan Song edition. No,
it's the
new Honda Nsx Type S. No, not that. Yes,
that's the one. Yeah, Type S.
But won't be available to UK buyers.
Of course, it won't be, because it's not. No.
It's I'm looking at it now. Matte grey.
It looks really good, actually.
It seems to have melted the racetrack that it's driving on.
I know. That's how quick it is in the V6.
It's blisteringly quick. Nice.
And what's great is James May drove that on the Grand Tour, and he said it's a brilliant car to drive, and it feels like it's actually as good as some of the hypercars that you would pay another 10 times more money for, which is quite incredible. So that's one of the reasons why I like them quite a lot. But have you got any more news?
Yes, plenty more news for now. But sticking with Japan,
Yeah.
the new Nissan Z revealed with retro design and 400 brake horsepower V6.
Oh, yes.
Sounds very appealing. Doesn't look very appealing to me.
See, I quite like the looks, actually, Matty. At the front, it looks quite good. I know there's a lot of controversies on this. So I don't know, but I need to see it in the flesh really before I make a decision whether I like it or not. That's the thing.
I think with this, it's more of a me problem than anybody else. I mean, do you know what? Something I would argue with is that it's got like a grill, like an extractor fan that'd be at the back of a supermarket. You know, to let all the air out. That looks shit. I just the back not too bad, but just the whole front of the car doesn't look good enough for me.
See, I'm the opposite. I don't like the back.
All right, okay, but I don't know. I mean, I've always had a problem with these Nissan sports cars, just simply because it just says Nissan on them. And I think
I know what you mean. I mean, like having got my MX-5, I've been more into the JDM scene recently, and I've actually been looking at Skylines to buy as my next car. I really like them. I don't know what it's about them. It's just, they're really iconic.
Well, yeah, but a Skyline's cheaper than something, or would be cheaper than something like a 350Z, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Or
actually, no, it's not, because I looked. So basically, this is quite relevant to this month's theme, actually, because we're talking about classic cars being future classics.
Yeah, Skyline all the way. Yeah.
It's technically a modern classic because it's still not old enough to be a classic, but it's still 20 odd years. And I looked at R34 Skylines, the 90, 99, 98 ones.
Yeah.
They were brand new. They were about 20 to 30 grand. Guess how much they are now, Matty?
25?
No, they're £215,000.
Oh my god.
Yep, I'm not kidding. They are in the 200,000 margin. So yeah.
I think that would be a good time to mention, just in case anyone's noticed. I'm in someone else's house. I'm not in the usual setting, and Bailey's got a new pair of headphones.
I have indeed.
Yeah.
Studio headphones. They're good. So we're changing things up for episode 10.
Yes, it's all changed. Now, to share your headphones with Bailey, would you like to share with someone or something? Would you like to save £1,000 on a partner?
What do you mean? Like well, I don't understand what you mean by that.
Would you like to save £1,000 if someone said to you, you can have a partner for £1,000 less than the price that I'm asking for? What would you say?
What, a partner as in like a girlfriend, or?
No, because Peugeot has cut the partner and expert van prices by £1,000.
Right.
Yes.
That type of partner. Okay.
Yep.
What was the question again?
Well, it was just really a link for this week's I'm Not Interested headline.
Oh, right. I'm not interested then.
If it's Vauxhall News or Peugeot News, that is the segment. I mean, 10 podcasts in. How many podcasts have we done the I'm Not Interested one?
Most of them.
You always trip up, Bailey, when I'm trying to do the thing. What?
I was genuinely thought you actually asked me that question, but I didn't think it was the not interested segment. But anyway, that was the not interested segment.
It certainly was. Something I'm interested in, if we can just jump to this very quickly. Because I don't know if this will tie in much actually with our theme, but Subaru will invest more in EV research and development to try and catch up. Now, I'm assuming this very vague sort of use of the phrase catch up means catch up in sales, catch up in appeal, because
everything,
Subaru
basically.
I mean they're good at rally cars, but they've never really been good at sort of mainstream stuff. Farmers cars they do, but
I like the Imprezas and stuff, but
obviously,
it's not like a common choice of buying, is it?
Yeah. So I mean, my question is, because look at Mitsubishi, they made electric cars and stuff, and they were very good at it, and they've pulled out of the UK now. Do we think Subaru are gonna survive? Be sad to see them go.
It would, yeah. I mean, we kind of mentioned this when we thought, like, we did the podcast with what was it, Daniel, talking about what cars we think might be deceased and things in the future. We did mention Subaru.
Did we?
I think we did, yeah. So I reckon they might be, which would be a shame, because they make some cool cars like the Imprezas, like I said, and the Imprezas, and that's it.
Well, yeah, it's strange how for years people have been saying, well, if you bring in a ban for petrol and diesel cars by a certain year, you know, all the companies will need to catch up and make cars in time and all that. And Subaru have waited till like 18 months after we've had the sort of deadline put in front of us and gone, oh, hang on, we best do something here, a bit of R&D. Go on, guys, do some market research into EVs, see what they're all about. It's like they've been asleep.
It's funny you mentioned this as well, because I read a segment earlier when I was doing my research for the podcast today, that apparently Mercedes are sort of coming out of Formula E because they want to focus on making EV like road cars. So that's their main focus at the moment. And I just think, how boring are you? I mean, Formula E is boring already. Formula 1 is boring most of the time. But it's like, you know, they come out of that because they want to focus on a new GLE that's electric. So I don't care.
Oh God!
It's kind of relatable to the Subaru situation.
Well, yeah, it's like, do we think like the X5 and the X3 and all that from BMW? Are they gonna exist for much longer? Is it all about what is that ugly car called, the XRZ or something? You know, the way the you know what I mean, don't you? It's basically
what do you mean? The iX something.
iX, that's it. Yeah. So do you think the iXs are gonna?
I think that will take over from the X5s and stuff, because that's kind of a bit of a mix of them, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's scary stuff, isn't it?
It is indeed. And I've got something a bit more light-hearted now. In terms of news. Well, I'd say light-hearted. It's a bit sort of random. Matty, would you like to know the top 10 cheapest cars to insure in the UK at the moment?
Yeah, might come in handy.
Well, it might come in handy for some of the listeners as well. So the top 10 cars are Skoda Fabia, Volkswagen Polo.
Is that 10 or 10? Are you going 10 to 1 or 1 to 10?
I don't know, just 10 of them. So
okay, so in no particular order.
Basically, they're either 1 to 10 or 10 to 1. So one of those. So the Skoda Fabia, Volkswagen Polo, Volkswagen Up, Kia Picanto, Renault Clio, Seat Ibiza, Ford Fiesta, Kia Rio, Hyundai i10, Fiat Panda, mild hybrid. Now, Matty, do you want to know why these are the cheapest cars to insure?
They don't have engines in them?
Pretty much. They're all mainly 1 litres or 1.1s.
Yeah.
Literally all of the cars there that I mentioned are 1.1s or 1 litres. Yeah. And also they're all hatchbacks. So I just thought it was an interesting concept because, just shows England, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, I don't want any of them cars particularly. I mean, I'd rather have an old Panda. I mean, if I had to choose, I'd probably have a Volkswagen Up because they're square.
That's the wrong answer. You'd have an Ibiza because I had one.
No. only dicks drive them sort of cars.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Before Bailey punches me. He's down south. I'm up north, so there's no way.
I'll be coming up north soon, Matty. I'm going to Scotland. Remember?
Yeah. Well, I won't be there. I'll be going down south as you come up north. Like, see you later. I've got a theory this week. Last month on the podcast, you may have been listening to my business pitch about dating and not paying a subscription for Tinder, but you can watch that on the previous podcast. This week, indeed. I have a very hard hitting theory, which is quite concerning, really. The way in like Mercs and all manner of other cars now, you have autonomous emergency braking. Yeah. I've actually experienced it before, not where I was gonna crash, but where the car thought. I was basically driving a Merc and I went to overtake a bus that was at the bus stop, And because I didn't take I didn't turn the wheel straight away. I turned it sort of when I was basically a little bit close to the bus, just fucking checked my mirrors and went across. The car actually started beeping and would have braked if I'd have carried on, because it thought it was going to hit the bus, but was just taking over. Anyway, technology taking over. But the point is that you can get cars which will brake for you automatically, which avoids you getting into a crash in the first place. Very, very common now. But it's actually on the new Nissan Qashqai. Really don't know what to think of the Qashqai. Don't have an opinion on it. But my only concern is that the Nissan Qashqai, the previous generation, the one before that, they've all been top-selling cars in the UK. So if the same amount of people buy this brand new one with the autonomous emergency braking, and there isn't going to be a single Qashqai that is going to be written off ever, is there?
True.
So it's literally going to be a zombie apocalypse of Nissan Qashqais. And viewers and listeners, right, if you're thinking of buying a brand new Nissan Qashqai and storing it in a garage, thinking it'll be a classic car one day, don't bother, because they're all going to exist forever. That is my theory, and I think it's true.
If it's going to be a future classic, but it's not.
I think it's scary that they're just going to be here forever. It's like plastic bags. The year is going to be 2100, and there's going to be Qashqais of this generation just everywhere, because we just can't destroy them. So now we come to the theme of this month's podcast, and it is classic cars. So in this first section, we'll be discussing our favourite current classic cars. You know, all the ones that are featured in all the top 10s on the magazines. We'll be picking out our favourites. We'll then go on to our favourite modern classic cars. So stuff that you can just about buy for affordable money, but it's a modern classic that doesn't need too much maintenance and looking after and all things like that. And then finally, we'll be giving our predictions on some future classics that aren't yet classics, but will be, you guessed it, classics.
That's right. That
was slick.
That was slick, Matty. I'm glad.
So, do you want to go first, Bailey? Your first favourite classic car?
Well, I mean,
exists?
As a car guy, and I'm sure a lot of car guys can agree with me, there's many classic cars that take my fancy, and I don't just have one favourite, so it's quite difficult for me to choose. But I can name a few that I really, I absolutely adore, and there's a bit of a variety here. So I'm really into like classic American muscles. So I like, the Ford Mustang Fastback, the Charger, the Chevrolet Chevelle SS. The Camaros and stuff like that, and I also like the supercars like the F40, the F50, the 250 California, for example. A lot of that DB5. So I'd say that's a lot of my sort of main classics. I'm probably missing many, but that's a good place to go off, I guess.
Well, do you want to talk any more, or do you want me to tell you mine?
I mean, that's up to you, Matty. I mean, I've got like those cars, and obviously you're going to have the complete opposite, I'd imagine. Well,
yes. Do you want me to tell you my first initial one that come into my head?
Yes.
Citroen Ds. It looks cool. Looks like an insect. And that's all I know about it. When it comes to when it comes to all classic cars, if I like the look of them, I'm just like a kid in a sweet shop, just picking up the licorice, not knowing that it tastes like shit, but it looks cool, so I like it. So the Citroen Ds, I know it was a very ahead of its time car. I know that much. I know about the suspension, obviously, because it's a Citroen. But then on the other side of the spectrum, for my favourite classic car that already is, a verified classic car, I would love a old Lancia Stratos in yellow. Yes. It has to be yellow for some reason, with the yellow wheels. Yeah. Oh, it's
You know
not
what,
yellow.
I
It's like
actually-
tinged brown, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's another car that I'd have as well. So this is the thing, Matt. I love classic cars. You know, like even the Lancia Fulvia, they're wicked. What else? Oh, there's so
Delta.
many. Delta, yeah,
Delta
Delta's good.
Integrale, yeah.
God, there's actually so many that it's wiped from my mind now.
Well, that's it. It always happens, doesn't it? Where you come in. But I don't know. When I've been thinking about this, I've been going by brand and what I'd have. So I'd love an old Rover. Just I know they were badly made and things like that, but they're just. I'd love an old Rover with a nice big engine and like an SD1 or something, or even a Maestro. You know, they're fetching good money now. But yeah,
I'll tell you what I want. Like I've seen one recently. Actually, I've looked at it. I was like, I'd actually really love to have that. It would be the little Mini Cooper, you know, the old classic ones.
Well, yeah.
And I just think they're wicked. They're just so little. They're so diddy and just tiny. I'll just have it in my living room or something, you know, and look at it.
Well, that's it. I've always sort of written off the Mini because, you know, it's the one that you see, you know, sort of print pictures of for your wall in people's bedrooms when you're a kid, and you know, they're just sort of so the default classic car, aren't they? And you know, they're what everyone knows, and I've always gone down the route of, well, you know, but there is a reason why Minis are so popular, and they're crazy expensive now, considering you could buy one for 400 quid.
What are they now, like 10 grand to 30 grand or something?
Yeah, so I mean, there's loads of different types, but yeah, that's the sort of money that they're fetching. But there is a reason why they're so popular, and it is because they're so good. I mean, I don't think I'd fit in one, but yeah, I don't know.
I definitely would be able to, but and I've got to mention the Lamborghinis, like the classic Lambos, you know, the Miura, the Jalpa. That was the V8 one. That was really cool. That's kind of almost forgotten about almost. Of course, the Countach, which you've mentioned.
Yeah.
What else? You know, the Diablo. God, there's so many.
Yeah, just what brilliant names for Lamborghinis that, you know, we mentioned this last week, but just the best names, isn't it? Diablo. Yeah.
You want a car that's called Diablo. It's just awesome, isn't it?
You definitely do. I mean, saying that though, I want a car that's called Nova. I mean, Vauxhall Nova I've got on my list here. Yes. Just brilliant cars. SRI.
You know, actually,
I'd love one.
I tell you what, Matty, I do really like the retro hatchbacks as well. You know, I would actually have a 205 GTI. I'd actually have one of those. I'd also love to have a Golf GTI, the original. You know, I do like those little quirky hatchbacks.
Well, the grass is always greener, isn't it? Because, like, so I always think, well, these people who had these Novas 205s, imagine if they'd have kept them and thought this will be worth a few bob in a few years and all that sort of thing. But I don't know. Firstly, I've now bought a 90s hatchback, which I'm struggling to maintain. It's literally been not moved for months, so there's that aspect of it. But also, if I own a car now, a Saxo, which they're getting quite thin on the ground, so I don't know, maybe in say 10 years or something they might be worth something. But just think about how many miles and how many more stone chips my Saxo is going to have in 10 years, you know.
Yeah.
I'd have probably scrapped it well before then. I mean, not that I'm going to scrap it, but the time might come, you know. So it's a difficult one. It really is.
I mean, it's like, I don't know if my MX-5 fits into the modern classic or actual classic, but, you know, I have a feeling they're going, I mean, I've seen it already in my own eyes, they're going up in value. Like someone, for example, was selling one on Facebook, one of the group chats that I'm in, and it was a pretty mint one. It only done like 37,000 miles, and they put it up for like 10 grand. And you know, you could buy. I mean, obviously, when they were new, they were like 18, but it will get to that point where it will actually go past that. Yeah,
definitely. It 100% will, because even something like a Austin Montego, which is you know, crummy old saloon that they didn't work when they were new, and they cost less than 10 grand. There's them up for 10, 12 grand now. I seen one the other day. So with something as desirable as a Mazda MX-5, a Unos as well, you'd probably get more for it now if you put it up for sale than what you bought it for, the way used car prices are going.
I mean, I could probably put it like, I read something in the group thing as well, and it was like, oh, what's this car worth? Someone put a picture of their car and said, I'm looking to sell it, and what's it worth? And then they were like, actual retail price £1,000, but today's market, I'd say £5,000.
Yeah.
Just because of, you know, how many stupid people are out there as well. That's also a factor.
It's honestly true. Like, I read like an article that even though, like, say, like used cars, like 4-year-old cars have gone up in price, even like down to the banger on your driveway, it said, has gone up in price. So just everywhere this used car market's absolutely mad at the moment.
Now, talking about classic cars as well, I've got you know, the old classic Porsches, like the 911s.
Yeah, not a fan, but go on.
Not a fan either, but they have, I don't know if you've noticed recently, they've made a new company called Singer, and they like renovate old classic 911s. Yeah. But they basically, they keep the shell, but they make it out of carbon fibre, so it's so much more lighter. Yeah. And interior, it's got like, you know, really expensive leather. It's got, you know, it's got all the analog stuff, but it's all like modernised. And I think they look brilliant. They got the roll cages in it, and apparently they're so fast, but they are like, you know, £500,000 because they're custom made. So it's, you know, it's that aspect of it, but it's also, you know, it's almost like, I can see that almost being a classic in itself, because they're a classic of a classic, but it's like a reimagined classic.
A new and improved.
Classics. Yes.
Should we move on to some? Have we done modern classics?
What would you define modern classic as? Because I mean, like, you know, my MX-5, does that fit into a modern classic, or is that a classic?
I think a modern classic, I don't think it's necessarily based on age. I think it's based on how easy it is to maintain. So something like a Mazda MX-5, I think, because of how I think because of how reliable they are and what sort of engine they are, you know, it would be defined as a modern classic. But something, and I can't think, to be honest with you, but something maybe the same age as a Mazda MX-5 that was a little bit more, or by now would be a little bit sort of problematic, I think you'd just put into the classic category. Yeah. But yeah,
I suppose it's a good time to mention the like Skylines again. I mean, they have gone up loads in value because they're so desirable, but they're still, you know, easy to maintain. They're still like, I'd say fairly modernish. They're not classics really. Especially the R32 one, the very first early 90s Skyline. You know, they're still, you buy one for about $60,000. That's dollars. But they're not like overly expensive, and to be fair, when they were new, they were about 30. So I mean, they've gone up, but it's not.
I think a good one is just, which will smoothly move into this, you know, from a Skyline to Citroen Saxo VTS VTR.
I knew you were going to mention that.
Huge modern classics. You might as well just buy one of them, viewers and listeners.
Yeah.
Because it's a weird one, this, right? Because I'm in the Saxo owners groups and that. You get sort of a split down the middle here where half of the people who've got like VTRs and VTSs to sell are very much in the mindset that these are now worth a lot of money and have jumped up in value, which they have, but just it doesn't happen overnight, and not all of them are worth, you know, $8,000, $9,000 sort of thing. And then you have the other people who'd be on like selling a VTR that's done, say, like 90,000 miles for like £1,000. So you can either buy like get a proper steal, or like you can pay the money for it. So it's quite of a sort of scales territory here. It's going like that side to side, but yeah, you can still get good ones.
Another modern classic as well that I thought of just now actually was, you know, the old 2005 Ford GT, and I realised how much I actually love them because they just look amazing. I mean, they were expensive when they were new, and they still are even more expensive. But I think that will keep climbing, and they're still they're fairly modern. It is 6 years old. Sorry, 15, 16 years old.
Same with the Audi R8.
The original, the V8 one, and the manual gearbox. Yeah, that's wicked. I want one of those actually.
I think now would be a good time actually as well to ask a question that I wanted to put in, which is, what actually makes a classic car a classic car? Because
that's a good question. That's a really good question actually.
Coming back to say like the generation sort of below us, who like all went to school in like a Nissan Qashqai. In 30 years' time, will they be reminiscing about the Nissan Qashqai and saying that's, I'd love to have one of them and sort of try and...
No. Simple answer is no.
Well, they might be just for sentimental and nostalgic reasons, the same way people now are saying, I went to school in, an old, I don't know, Rover 800 or, well, not a Rover 800, but like a Rover 75 or something, or or like a Toyota Carina, and people, Toyota Carinas would never ever have been predicted to be a classic car, but now they're sort of gaining a bit of. So what actually?
What makes a classic car? I mean, we're kind of moving into what is the future predictions as well. I guess.
What is the meaning of life?
But, exactly. This is the podcast for it. But what makes a classic? I mean, in my opinion, it's a number of things, as always. But it's got to be the good looks. I'd say actually, more relevant to the 80s and 90s, but almost like racing history. Because if you think about it, racing kind of helps sell the road going version of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good looks, obviously, I mentioned that. The engine. And just the general like nostalgia, like the driving and stuff. Yeah, the character from it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, a lot of that is missing nowadays in a lot of cars, and which is why I think there's going to be less future classics cars at the moment that will be future classics because of the lack of character.
100%. I mean, something like the Ford Fiesta, they're always actually going to be sort of classics because they just sort of,
especially the ST.
Yeah. So they just sort of just get thrown away so quickly that there becomes so little of them left. But because they were such a popular car, people regard them as a classic car when you can't get one anymore. But every car that's sort of been on sale for the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years, I just don't see being a future classic. The newest modern future classic car that I've got is... Well, actually, I've got a newer one, but I'll tell you that later. The Mark 1 Ford Focus.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that is 100% going to be a classic in the future. And the best thing is, viewers and listeners, you can just still get one now and just not even hide it away, just look after it, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I'm trying to do my Saxo as best I can.
Another modern classic as well. Obviously, I'm jumping right up to the supercars again.
Yes,
as I naturally do.
Your speciality.
It is indeed. The very first SLS Mercedes, because they've stopped making them. They're just so much money now that they've actually gone up even now, and they're only 10 years old. So,
and they're all electric, the new ones as well, aren't they? So,
as well. Yeah,
that's the way. Legendary cars like the SLS. I mean, even I, a non-sort of supercar person, knows exactly what an SLS is and how important they were.
I love them so much. Yeah. I tell you what, Josh and I were having a conversation about, Josh from the Grand Teen. He was saying, obviously his Alfa Romeo and Meteo, they don't make them anymore. They've stopped the production of them. And he reckons that it will be a future classic as well. And I actually agree with him because... if you look at it, it's a very unique looking car. You don't see that many of them anyway at the moment, and they're really good cars. So I reckon that will be a future classic.
Anything with any sort of an identity, really. What can you compare that to? Something like a Toyota Aygo or something like that. They're just not the same. They're just not the same
at all.
So I do agree with that. My mate's got an Alfa Romeo Meteo as well, and I'm not the biggest fan of the Meteo, to be fair.
I don't particularly love the back. The front's nice of it.
Yeah, I just think they're a little bit for an Alfa, because I think they're based on like a 500 or something. So I just think for an Alfa, they're just a little bit sort of tall, and not Alfas are traditionally very squat to the ground, and I just think it's to me it does look like something, whatever it's based on, a 500 or whatever, dressed in a nice,
I think it's a Panda, because they got
Alfa
a Panda
Romeo
engine.
dress. Yeah, Panda. But yeah, I do agree. I think the something like an Alfa Romeo Meteo would be a future classic. I've got a controversial one here.
Go on.
Something that I think was so radical. I mean, I hate it, but I think that this was such a radical design that a Mark 1 Nissan Duke will be a future classic, just because it was so shit.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see what you mean.
Especially the Nismo versions as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like them.
No,
who
I
does,
don't.
obviously, but
Oh God, just.
I see what you mean, though. Like, just because of the hatred it got, it would have like a meaning in the future.
It would be a future meme as well.
Yeah,
you know, it's a current meme in the car world at least, but it will be a sort of, you know, the way now, like, so there'll be like a version of Top Gear where they drop pianos on Nissan Dukes to annoy the Nissan Duke Owners Club, that sort of thing. I think it's going to have that sort of vibe.
Yeah,
I really do.
It'll be remembered as, I guess, another way of saying it. Not in a good way, but
no, not for the right reasons. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Another future classic that I think would be a future classic is a lot of the sort of like first sort of hybrid supercars, so like, you know, the P1, the LaFerrari, the 918 Spider, Porsche, those three especially, because simply because of their sort of trio with, you know, Jeremy, Richard and James.
Yeah,
that's another reason why, you know, they might become more classic than they might not, you know, might have been if they weren't with them. And simply because they're like the next step for the supercar, so they're almost that sort of in between.
Very, very important cars.
Very important, yeah.
Yeah, I think anything that's sort of like experimental, where we'd look back at it and go, well, they didn't get that quite right, but it led to this car that we have now. Yeah. You know, that's what I mean about, I guess, like the Nissan Duke and the Ford Focus that. They're just, if they're pioneering cars, then I think they're definitely safe for being a future classic.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, on that note, that is, well, our future classic car predictions and classic car conversation, amongst with the sort of car news that's related to it as well. So that's pretty much it for this podcast. We do hope you enjoyed listening and watching.
What do you think about our choices? Do you have your own? Let us know. Viewer interaction. And if you're a woman, phone us up, because we'd like to get you on still.
Getting
a bit desperate now.
Yeah, we still haven't got Linda Jackson on, have we? So
Linda Jackson.
Is that who it was?
Rebecca Jackson from Carwow.
Linda's a sister, so never mind.
Oh yeah, okay. Let you off.
Yeah. So anyway, let's make sure you should subscribe to us on the Grand Teen and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Obviously, the same Grand Teen. Matty, do you want to plug your social media and YouTube?
Yes, as usual. If you'd like to find more of me, it's Matty's Cars on YouTube, and if you want to find even more of me, then it's
OnlyFans.
It's OnlyFans, yeah. It's Matty's Cars YT on Instagram, I think it is. And if you want to find even more of me, then you'll have to dig a little bit deeper to see if you can find me personal gram, to see pictures of me on nights out and things like that.
Which you follow on your YT account, so it shouldn't be too difficult.
Don't tell them that. I want it to be a mystery. But yeah, follow me there. Follow Bailey there. On your podcast number 11 next month, Bailey.
It is indeed. Yeah. One more closer to a year anniversary. Not that there's anything to celebrate. I mean, it's been great, obviously, having everyone on listening.
Celebrate a
20 people that do.
male-only podcast for a whole year.
Well, to be fair, our viewership has gone up a little bit every time, so that's good. But let us know what you want us to do for the 12th one. Do you want it to be a special episode, or do you just want to be chilled and, you know, just have me and Matty talk about a load of shit again? So let us know on the comments as usual, and let us know about your classic car and what your thoughts are.
This
on
podcast is a future classic.
That is very true. This is a future classic podcast. So we'll see you in 2050.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for listening, and see you next time.
Bye.